A Hairy Problem by Blue Bastard. Chapter 21 Dark Purpose. It was pretty late at night when the main six, Lyra, Sandalwood, and the rest of the apples, found themselves once again inside Golden Oak's library to discuss Applejack's lycanthropy. Except this time, it was Lyra and Sandalwood who had to do some explaining after Twilight retold the story of how Cadence kept failing to send the layers via dragon magic. So, let's just start this off by saying Sombra was a completely twisted and sick individual, cried Sandalwood, and that he really didn't know what the hell he was doing when he created werewolves. Well, that don't bode well for me, sarcastically commented Applejack, resident werewolf representative. It gets worse, Circuit Cube, replied Lyra, unwillingly using AJ's own endearing term to refer to the farm pony. From what we could learn up at the Crystal Empire, all ponies who contacted lycanthropy from the first generation werewolves, the ones actually turned into monsters themselves by Sombra, who would eventually degrade both physically and mentally until they incurred a one-way transformation to become full wolves, having no memory or giving off any signs that they had been ponies up until their deaths, in which case they referred to their original forms. Rainbow Dash, already having squeaky reactions to that fact, noted AJ's legs were beginning to jitter. She was scared, and Rainbow couldn't blame her. To comfort, Dash unfurled one of her wings to wrap it around the poor werewolf, an action AJ appreciated with a glance, and a small smile before both Earth and Pegasus ponies focused on the speaking mares. We did find there to be one exception to this rule, however. Sandalwood nodded, slightly perking up Applejack. In extremely rare cases, a specific blood mutation on the pony. You mean a blood quantum, corrected Twilight. Sandalwood just gave Twilight a look before continuing. Yes, a blood quantum, as Twilight so heavily points out. Anyway, in the event the victim pony has the trait in question, they will not eventually turn into a full wolf, but will instead remain as a werewolf who also has immortality. Wait, interjected Applejack. So what you're saying is that I'm either going to end up becoming something no better than a timberwolf with flesh, or I'm going to eventually be a dog version of Alicorn. As much as I want to remain myself, who wants to live forever? I'm afraid that's what it is, Applejack, Lyra stated. Sabra never seemed to bother finding a way to refer to the curse he created. So, unless there's some kind of cure-all cure that can cure any kind of long-lasting spell, I'm afraid you're out of luck.
What about Sakura? Piped up Apple Bloom. She knows all kinds of potions of cures for just about anything. It would be worth a shot asking her tomorrow, wouldn't it?
I'm afraid we don't have much of a choice, do we? Said Rarity. Well, there is one other thing that may or may not be in play, added Sandalwood. If this stable is still around, then he may already have some kind of control over you. Control over me? Like what? Exclaimed Applejack. Well, also in Sombra's notes, he gave Sable a special power no other werewolf had due to his insistence on being the leader of the werewolf soldiers in Sombra's employ. It was also sort of vague, but from what I could make out, it's that Sable can magically amplify a howl such that it calls all werewolves he's turned into followers to rile at his side, regardless of where he is. Since we have to believe he's the same werewolf that turned you, Applejack, you may not be able to resist such a howl. Yeah, right. Like I'm gonna willingly. As if timed perfectly for some cosmic punchline, a vicious howl could be heard echoing across the miles of land, especially Ponyville. It shook all ponies down to the core. So some immensely evil creature wished for its presence to be known. For Applejack, she reared up and clenched her ears, inadvertently knocking off her hat, trying to not hear the sound. But to her, it was like a siren song. As her eyes glazed over, she almost mechanically turned and headed for the door. With surprising speed, Big Mac flew to intercept and block her way. However, he couldn't keep up with his sister's werewolf agility, as he deftly leapt over him and out the door before he could compensate. Resting inside the cave, just a short distance away from Winsome Falls, Sable smiled. He knew Applejack had heard her master's call and was on her way. Maybe later he could convert the rest of her friends. Having the whole set of elements to turn against the princesses was so tempting, but he had to secure the original one first. As it would still take her a while to get to his location, safely away from the rest of Ponyville. With his plans so close to fruition, and no possible way they could backfire, he allowed himself the rare luxury of drifting in thoughts. Those thoughts had ended up becoming memories, the ones of when he had met the mare he had loved for so long, and who had set him down this path. Baltimore, 250 years ago. It disgusted Sablelone that he should have to burglarize other ponies' homes just to survive. The actual stealing part he didn't have a problem with, he being of the opinion that those who have the strength should take what they please, regardless of true ownership. No, the problem was that he had to stoop as low as a petty theft simply to survive. A werewolf such as he should not need to resort to that kind of action to feed himself. Yet he had been having extreme trouble finding enough game in the wild to keep it fed. So here he was in some pony's family cottage, roughly through the kitchen, trying to figure out what was edible. He'd been rather sloppy, as he bypassed breaking the front door window to disengage the lock in favor of leaping through said window. It would take more than just a few glass cuts to harm him. Suddenly, he detected the presence of another, and snapped his head around. A carrot stuck between his mouth, between being removed from the fridge and placed into a pillowcase he had stolen to use a bag. Staring at him was an Earth Pony mare, grass green coat, soft yellow and sky blue mane and tail, and pink eyes, all encapsulated in the creature who stood before the monster. Sable theorized that she was the resident of the house, but her actions weren't adding up. This was the first time he had been caught in years when he had to forage civilization for food. But in previous raids, his discovery was met with screams and cries for the royal guard, who were stationed in whatever backwater village Sable was in at the time. Here, this pony just stood there, taking in breaths at a controlled pace. There was fear in her eyes, to be sure, but he could tell that there was more than natural gut reaction out of an evolved prey animal. There was wonder, curiosity even.
Who, who are you?
Constantly asked the mare. I'm gonna have to remember this voice. Sable was in shock. Then in shock at the fact that he was in shock. Here was this mare, looking right at what most ponies couldn't bear to see, much less try to communicate with. And yet, the moment she said those words, she relaxed a little. Had he desired to, Sable alone would have loved to kill her easily at that moment. But this unusual pony interested him, so he decided to entertain the question. I am Sable Low, last of the werewolves. You are the first pony in a long, long time to approach me as a fellow intelligent being. The rest simply scream and shatter. Tell me, are you not scared of my form? Not bothered by the fact that I am stealing your food right in front of here?
Not really, replied the mare coolly. You're clearly also a pony of some kind, so you have to be able to talk, and there's nothing I can stop you from raiding the food store, so why should I care?
But you never did not answer my first question, intoned Sable, dropping the carrot and rushing up to the mare, holding up one of his claws to her throat. I could kill you in an instant, not even giving you time to scream. Why does that not bother you? Why are you not scared of me? Her eyes had changed beyond refocusing on him as she said,
If you must know, I find you interesting. I mean, you're a living legend. It must be exciting to live like you, not tied down to any social norms. The ability to go and do as you please whenever you want to. It sure sounds better than the boring life of a housewife I'm stuck with.
Then, if it does not scare you that I could be the bringer of death, then how about I make you my personal slave? Every night filled with your screams as I ravish you over and over until I am satisfied, with no hope of ever returning to this safe haven or any pony that you know, forced into serving me for the rest of your life.
You think I care about living with safe being important? Retorted the mayor, letting out a haughty laugh. Oh, please. How can one enjoy life if all they do is avoid risk and danger? To be stuck in the same place, seeing the same things, doing the same task over and over.
At that, Sable backed off while raising an eyebrow. He had already planned on letting his pony go after he managed to get her to admit how scared she was. But, much to his surprise, she hadn't faltered, going so far as to imply that she was jealous of his life. She was a strong, independent character who seemed to embody everything he possibly could have wanted in a companion, a mate. Then, he decided to change his own way of life. For almost 800 years he had been a lone wolf, only relying on himself and no pony else. But this hidden treasure of a mare, he felt something towards. Maybe it was that love all those hopeless romantics had gone on about since the beginning of time. But whatever it was, he was not going to let this mare go. "What is your name?" asked Sable. She answered without hesitation.
Fair Vista.
As she said it, she turned slightly, giving him a glimpse of her cutie mark. It was of a sun peeking over her horizon. "All right, Fair Vista. What if I was to tell you I could offer you a new life?" She did not verbally reply, but her eyes widening at the mere suggestion confirmed what he suspected, prompting him to continue. "As you seem so uncaring about this life you currently lead," he continued, "and hold mine in such regard, what would you say to throwing it all away and becoming my companion, my mate?"
It sounds dangerous and not in the least bit safe. What's the catch?
She was probably going to have to agree to this, no matter what the conditions were, which Sable was like. "As I told you, I'm a werewolf. So, if you have to have any hope of keeping up with me in any capacity, and I mean any, I will have to turn you into—" He didn't get the chance to finish, before she somehow tried to position her neck in front of his mouth.
The stories about you werewolves say you can transform ponies into your own kind with bites to the neck, right? Then go ahead and do it. I want to go with you. To have that life and not be stuck in this stupid town! Hell, the prospect of not even being fully pony anymore sounds good to me. Anything to start over.
Grinning, Sable obliged Vista. As his fangs were driven into her throat, she of course screamed from the pain, blood cascading from the punches down into Sable's mouth, and then the floor. He let go after a few minutes, a sizable blood of having formed to the ground, next to it now laying the twisting form of fair Vista. Then, to both his and her surprise, the twitching quickly turned into thrashing and convulsions as Vista started to change. The bite wounds on her neck instantly vanished as she bit down her lip to resist his screams. Her entire body felt like it was stuck in a raging fire. But after a few minutes, the new werewolf stood on shaking legs. She surveyed herself, seemingly pleased with the results. Then dancing over to Sable, planting her lips on his, surprising him once again. When Fair Vista's husband and daughter returned home that night after a day of selling at the market, they found a broken home. The front door was shattered, the front window having been smashed, and then the whole thing broken off its hinges. The interior was a bigger disaster. The kitchen was a complete loss, with all the food having been stolen. But the heart-shattering detail being the large pool of blood on the floor. More of the blood could be smeared all over the rest of the house, over furniture and expensive pictures of family. The inquiry by the investigating royal guard determined something from the neighboring evergreen forest had broken into the house in search of food. Then, after being seen by Fair Vista, had viciously attacked her, destroyed the interior of the house, and letting her bleed to death, before finally taking her corpse as even more food back into the forest. In reality, Fair Vista had assisted Sable in destroying her former house, taking pleasure in casting away the chains of her former, ordered life. They busted the door together, bag of food stolen in tow, and thus they raced off into the Everfree. She might belong to Sable now, both in mind and body, and soul. But now, as a werewolf herself, she could live the life she always desired, always seeking something new and exciting without the constraints of society or morality. She would be faithful companion for over 200 years following, without ever having left a clue to her grieving family as to her chosen fate. Sable smiled as he recollected possibly the best decades of his eternal life. True, they had been ended relatively recently in comparison, but that was all about to change. Glory days were about to be here again.
Oh, this is bad. So very, very, very bad,
wailed Fluttershy. While Fluttershy was the speaker, she voiced the concerns of every pony in Golden Oaks. Big Mac was especially disturbed. Repressed memories flooded back of his father having the same glazed look in his eyes that the red stallion had seen in his sister's eyes just a moment ago. He also vaguely remembered hearing that same howl the night everything had changed for the Apple family.
What happened to her?
Asked Apple Bloom.
Please, she's not herself. I mean, she forgot her hat.
The youngest Apple gestured toward the abandoned Stetson, which no pony noticed after it had been dislodged in Applejack's flight.
She always wears that hat, for as long as I can remember. Where did she get that hat, anyway?
Inquired Rarity.
I've always admired the craftsmanship and durability it demonstrated, and not once during my first visit to the finest hat shops in the continent have I ever seen a headpiece quite like it.
It was Applejack's hat, said Gray. I got for a link was about Applejack's hat.
She sighed, memories of happier time coming back to her.
It's been so long I can remember where I got it from. Well, he never answered any of them. He loves our hat. It was like a faithful companion comparable to a dog. We thought it was lost in the great blizzard 10 years ago. Well, he and Cornflower wanted to. But he must have chosen Applejack, as he gave me quite the heart attack when she suddenly started wearing it. She said he found it rested on an unusual peg on the headrest. But now she's forgotten it due to werewolf business. The same reason Appleseed left it behind. I fear we may lose my granddaughter out there just as I lost my son and daughter-in-law.
Hold on! Screamed Twilight. Are you saying she's worn that hat every day for almost a decade straight?
Yeah, she loves that whole thing. It's the only connection to her father she really has. I mean, yeah, she's got about a dozen other copies of the same hat, but that particular one is the most special because it is the unique out of all those copies.
Then we still have a chance to save her, declared the unicorn, grasping the heirloom in her telekinesis. I know of a spell that can track down any pony, regardless of location, but it requires something belonging to the pony in question that bears their essence and sufficient strength to be usable. If Applejack has worn this hat for a full decade, then it should be filled with her essence. The horn flared with magic energy before lashing out to the hat. The magic seemed to be absorbed by the inanimate object, before being blasted out of it toward the map section of the library. From there, a single rolled-up map of the immediate area around Ponyville emerged, moving in front of Twilight before unfurling. On the map were two blinking magic dots, one purple and one orange. The purple one sat in the middle of Ponyville, while the orange dot was moving slowly across the map away from Ponyville. Rainbow quickly realized where AJ was going. Uh-oh, she's going straight for her! She was interrupted by Pinky suddenly launching from a standstill toward a bookshelf like a missile. Since the start of the meeting, she more or less looked like she suspected some pony was listening in onto the conversation. Every pony figured it was just Pinky being Pinky. A reasoning that every pony dropped when Pinky opened up a secret compartment concealed behind some old encyclopedias and from a space no longer smaller than a cupboard. She pulled out Iron Will in its entirety. What? How? What? Who? Sputtered the Minotaur, unable to figure out how he'd gone from stalking the exterior of the tree berry to being pulled from a space smaller than the total surface area of his hard-card house.
What do you know?
Screamed Pinky to his face, not giving Iron Will the chance to regain his composure.
Why were you spying on us?
Normally, Iron Will would have asserted his superiority to the upstart pony, through one of his many methods that he made living-giving lectures about. However, he remembered this particular pony from his last trip, the one that gave him the idea for no means no circus of speeches. Not only has he done things in front of him that defied all sense of logic or reasoning, but during this specific visit, he had heard that this pony had invented a way to weaponize parties, the so-called party cannon. Iron Will couldn't even fathom how a pony could fit a social gathering into a portable version of a castle defense technology. Then the rumors of this pony's dark side were she turned into a different, more murderous kind of psychopathic compared to her normal psychopathy, and also involved turning individuals into cupcakes somehow.
Don't know how that one got started.
So, as a result, he feared this pony, and he was not about to give her an excuse to turn him into a cupcake.
Okay. Iron Will knows all of it. He knows your friend Applejack is a werewolf, and you've been helping her hide her secret.
And how long have you known this? Accused Rainbow, dashing right up to the Minotaur's face.
Yes, and what were you planning on doing to her, you ruffian?
Added Rarity, having taken up a book titled Magical Compendium, Volumes 1 through 36, that looked far larger than any book should have been. Twilight looked similarly angered, not happy at all that the individual she held to get any kind of clue toward hunting werewolves was now possibly aiming to turn her best friend into a rogue.
Now hold on!
Boomed Iron Will, deciding to go for broke and asserting for himself. In fact, every pony else in the room, including the Pink Nightmare, took a step back, man he insisted.
Look, Iron Will is to hunt werewolves, and unfortunately, it seems your friend has become the very thing Iron Will is hunting. But he doesn't want to kill her. Just so you know, Iron Will was only told about Applejack's lycanthropy earlier today, and the threats he posed to the town due to her lack of control over her, powers, so to speak.
Lightning dust, seethed Rainbow Dash. There would be talking between her and LD later, once this whole business was settled here first.
Hey, look!
Argued Iron Will.
She only told Iron Will her concerns, because she didn't want the town to suffer from a hidden threat that you can't say was fully under control.
Right, agreed Rainbow.
Girls?
Spoke Fluttershy timidly, not wanting to put into persistent in the voice of reason.
Shouldn't we be more concerned about Applejack right now?
Oh, shoot. You're right! Realized Rainbow, turning midair to face the assembled ponies. The map indicates he's heading toward the direction of Winsome Falls. That's the rate the dot on the map seems to be indicating. So Vienna clearly reused it as a campsite during our hike there in about 30 minutes.
But that's a full day's hike. There's no way we'd be able to catch up with her in time. That brute Sable might have made off with her, and even knowing her location would not mean we could save her,
cried Rarity. Not so, Rarity, Lyra shouted in triumph. The car Sandalwood and I built can make that distance in only a couple of minutes. The only problem is we can't take everybody, as excluding Dash, she's a fast flyer. There's 10 of us who'll need to get a ride, including Spike, and the car only has room for 5 ponies.
Ahem!
Interrupted Iron Will.
As much as Iron Will knows that this is awkward, he would like to come along with you ponies, as even though the exact details will need to be told to him later on, especially who this Sable pony is. You'll need to restrain a werewolf. Iron Will's probably going to be able to do it much better than any of you.
Okay, 11 individuals who need to ride in a 5-seat car, corrected Sandalwood. Some of us are going to need to stay behind. And although you would be a good bet to take along, Iron Will, I'm not so certain the car can handle your weight in addition to 5 other parties.
What about my own car?
Suggested Applebloom.
Yeah. I know if I hadn't had the help of my friends and built it, they're ready in the ever-free forest, none of this will happen. But we can't argue about that now. I'm sure it'll be an easy fix for all of us. I will at least allow Iron Will to come along, since it's built of a super strong cart.
Well, we don't have much of a choice now, do we? Reasoned Twilight. Big Mac, is Applebloom's car still at the apple farm where I put it?
No point that I don't know of has touched it,
replied Big Mac. Then come on, every pony. We don't have a second to waste, ordered Twilight, motioning for every pony to head out the door. Lyra, Sandalwood, you two go get your car and meet us at the farm. Iron Will, you come with the rest of us to the farm. We're going to need your strength.
Iron Will's strength is yours,
answered the Minotaur, as the herd headed out to try and fix up the machines they need to save their friend. Along the way, Big Mac picked up Applejack's Stetson and placed it on his own head. He figured it would help later on in keeping Applejack sane, as she had something tying her down to her family roots. When Applejack finally came back to her senses, she found herself sliding to a halt in a familiar location. Even though she had been here only once, she instantly recognized it as the first campsite she, RD, and Rarity had taken to CMC during their camping trip to Winsome Falls.
Well, how did I?
Asked the werewolf to no pony in particular. The last time she had done anything without any memory was when she had somehow walked from Golden Oaks all the way to the meadery. It didn't come to her senses until a half-meat burger had gone into her gullet. Although, now that she had been eating 2 meat patties a day, the feeling she had at that moment still gave her shivers, and only reminded her of how far she had gone she had ended up in her current state, which, on that subject, she knew had placed her currently in her wolf form, when she clearly remembered being a regular pony at the library. That meant there was a worryingly long period of time when she was in her more vicious, feral form and not in control at all. She could only pray no pony had crossed her path, or had been maimed or killed by her hooves, paws, whatever they were. Her father's hat was also missing from her head, but she vaguely remembered seeing it fall off her bed back at the library. So it was in Twilight's possession at the very least. The question remained, however. What caused her to run all the way to this spot? A distance of a day in a normal hike, but something she covered in just under an hour of solid running. The answer soon presented itself. Ah, there you are, my sweet, spoke a deep, slightly gravelly voice from behind Applejack. She stiffened, her fur momentarily standing on end. She had never seen a creature behind her beyond a single encounter months ago. The feeling she had now was the exact same when she had sunk his teeth into her throat. She then turned to look at the other presence, eyes narrow with a slight golden glow. He may have been a terrifying werewolf, but he was none now as well. A fact she kept in mind as she spoke to him directly. I don't know what you want from me, but after all you put me through, if you expect me to be easy to wrangle, then you had better be ready for a ride! Ye fucking ha.